Hello. A lot of times when it comes to doing embroidery, and I'm making items for an order, I run up against brick walls, so to speak, sometimes, or it can feel like a brick wall. But one of the things I wanted to bring out in my first kind of like vlog, for lack of better words, is some of the processes that I go through in order to make things for people, and to make sure that I do it just so. I'm very meticulous. I'm very particular. I need it to be right, and I refuse to allow anything that I make go out of my studio until I know it's something that I would pay for myself, because the items that I make, they are not inexpensive, but they're not overly priced either. They're pretty comparable to the market. That being said, I still want to be sure that the value of what I make, and what I send out matches exactly what I think my consumer would want and would appreciate. So that being said, I wanted to show an example of something that I made today, and show you exactly what I go through. This particular design that I made, it's of a teddy bear in a fishing boat, kickback fishing, with the baby's name up under it. And the design, if I'm not mistaken, give me one moment so I can pull it up and tell you exactly what it was. This particular design, if I'm not mistaken, was right at 13,000 stitches. So I want to be sure. And it sounds like a lot because technically it is a lot. Yeah, 12,946 stitches. So that's quite a bit, but I'll show it to you now. Okay, now this is the design that I did. As you see, it's the teddy bear and he's in the boat. And like I said, it's 12,946 stitches. And on my little bitty machine, I can probably do, well, I can't, it's listed at 400 stitches a minute. So that's a little over 30 minutes worth of embroidery in my studio per machine. And that doesn't include changing the different colors of thread, because here's the different colors. And excuse the mess in my studio, by the way. I've been quite busy the last few days, but that doesn't include all of the color changes, because as you see here, these are all one color, so I don't have to change those. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different colors. Even though that says peacock blue, and that does too, I didn't use the same color there. So that's 11 different colors, because my machine is a single needle machine, so I have to change out my colors. And sorry, I got patterns sitting on top of there. It's like junky around here. So anyway, so about 30 minutes, roughly 30 to 40 minutes to do this design by itself one time. So to show you the end product, and this is the end product. It's a blanket, and I put it on, this is a fleece on the top side, white fleece, so that the embroidery design will stand out better. And then on the inside is the bubble fleece, which is super soft and silky against the baby's skin, and it's a popular choice for baby blankets for people. But this is the design here, and like I said, it took about 40 minutes roughly to stitch this all the way out. I don't know if you can see it really well, but I think it turned out pretty good. But the whole point of me doing the video is to show how sometimes things doesn't go as planned. And here is the first time I did it, and it didn't turn out as well. And I also changed up the colors because I didn't really care for the colors, but that's not what got to me. And excuse this, this is a topping that goes over the top of the embroidery so that it doesn't stick, so that my stitches will stand on top of the blanket pile so it won't sink in and then you can't see the design. But check out the outline. As you'll see, the water is outlined, the boat is outlined, the fish, the teddy bear, he's outlined. But look at this one. When I did the outline, see how it's off around him? And I haven't cleaned up those extra stitches, so that's why it looks a little bit different as far as those stitches are concerned. But I stopped it before it got the rest of the way because I was so frustrated when I saw that jump. And that has a tendency to happen whenever you're doing embroidery, especially like on my machine, even though it is possible to have jumps on the larger, more expensive machines. But on my little machine, and then if it's not hooped tight enough, or if the needle is dull, or if the thread gets bound, I mean, it's any number of things that can cause something like this to happen. So that's why, you know, when people get a little frustrated with embroidery, they're like, oh my God, why does it cost so much? You know, well, it takes time. This thread, you know, thread isn't cheap. I'll be the first to tell you that. So all of this is embroidery thread. And I hope that didn't show up on my screen. All of this is embroidery thread, every bit of it. And embroidery thread is not the same as sewing thread. Sewing thread is completely different from embroidery thread. So this is the embroidery thread, and each one of these little spools can get quite costly. Depending upon what you get, like the specialty spools, I have the little bitty ones for right now. Those can be $5, $6, $7 each little spool. These I get from an embroidery business, so they're $3, $4 a spool. And no, you're not paying the full price, but just, you know, showing how it can add up. And it's not just the embroidery thread, it's not just the fabric, it's not just the machine, it's also like what I peeled off here. That's one topping that goes over the top of super soft material like this, and then there's another like back here on the back, and this helps stabilize the embroidery. You can't put embroidery on an item without this back here. Your embroidery design would fail, or it won't be as smooth if you don't have it. So there's considerable costs involved with embroidery. So despite all of the different aspects of the cost involved in embroidery, I still try to be reasonable and make sure that everything is affordable, especially for new families starting out. I completely understand that there's costs involved. It's more than just designer items that people would want for their children's nursery. They also need other things, you know, the milk, the Pampers, the stroller, the crib. All that stuff is not cheap, so I try to make sure that my costs are affordable. However, there is a cost incurred, so I just thought it would be fair to let you, the consumer, know exactly what is involved when it comes to embroidery, why it costs so much, why it may take so long, because I only showed you the embroidery designs on the finished product and on a semi-finished product. I didn't show you laying out the fabric, cutting it, making sure everything is just so, making sure it's straight, making sure that the measurements come out to what I charge for my blankets. If I charge for a 40 by 40 blanket, well, I have to cut it and sew it so that it's going to come out to 40 by 40 for you. And then sewing the bubble fleece, as soft and wonderful as that feels to the little baby and as beautiful as that fabric is, it is a pain in the butt to sew. I'm not gonna lie to you there. It's slick, it slides all over the machine, it doesn't take long for a stitch to go awry, and there you are with the seam ripper, you know, frustrated and having to pick everything apart and start all over again. So it takes time. I did find a little trick today. I may share that with you at some point. But I did find a trick today that helped make that a lot easier. So the 2 blankets that I did today turned out a whole heck of a lot easier than what I've done in the past. So sorry for the long video. I wasn't trying to do one too terribly long, but I did want to explain part of my process and how I operate and how I come up with the price for my item, because as I mentioned, just the embroidery alone is a good 40 minutes of that blanket process, and that's actually a larger blanket than what I do for the babies, because this is for a 2-year-old, so it's larger. So that's more measuring, more laying out across the table, making sure that both fabrics match up the right size, laying it all out, getting it all to lay completely even, so that when I stitch it around and sew it and make the blanket, it's not crooked and you get a lopsided blanket. Now granted, it is all handmade, so none of the items are going to be spot on perfect, just like if it was done on a machine or something like that. But I do daggum try my best to make sure that it is as close to perfect as I can get it, because if I were to purchase something handmade, I would want it to be, you know, nice and perfect, as perfect as I can reasonably expect. So that being said, I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video. If you have any questions about my process, or have a suggestion of anything else you would like to see in an embroidery environment on a small scale, not on a large scale, let me know. Hit me up. I don't have a problem with that. I'll leave a link down in the bottom, and check the messages. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and have a good night, because it is now 9:16 p.m. I've been at this since 11 a.m. I'm tired. Time for bed. So you guys have a good night. I'm gonna clean up my studio and turn in. Have a good day.